Hello out there in podcast land.
Hello.
Oh wait, are you talking to me?
No.
Oh.
Talking to the people listening.
Thank you for joining us, people listening. We have an exciting episode for you.
You're listening to the Fight for Together podcast.
We gotta work on this intro. I feel like we need to be like high energy or something.
You're barking up the wrong tree. If you want high energy from me, you married the wrong person.
Yeah, that's actually the gosh dang truth. And I'm not gonna get too personal with letting people know the levels of truth the levels of frustration that truth goes.
For you.
For me. Oh, thanks for clarifying. So we're trying this new thing for the podcast tonight. It's called Not Smoking. Maybe you've heard of it.
Which one is that one?
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, you gotta look here. I thought you were gonna do the clap.
No.
Because it's actually kind of a late. I don't know. For Lent, we're giving up cigars.
Bullshit.
Okay, I was
I'm
just
not.
kidding.
I mean, maybe you are.
I'm just kidding. Cammy already smoked today.
Yes.
Not that I'm against Lent.
Because it was so nice out. Not that I needed justification to smoke. It was so nice out. And I had to read our book.
And it is 10 o'clock. Holy crap, 10:30 at night. And we just poured a cup of coffee because I was lagging.
Yeah.
And
Tonight might be interesting.
I kind of want to talk about our date night, but I'm a little embarrassed about where we went.
I'll give you a hint. It has cheddar biscuits.
Oh, you can eat cheddar biscuits. That's right. We were at the ultimate seafood sellout place, Red Lobster. I was just feeling it.
Cousins to the ultimate Italian sellout place.
Yeah, I was thinking. I think Red Lobster is the ultimate sellout because the food, it's like really shitty quality. The clam chowder is not good. The clam chowder is just flour.
But they know it works.
The salad is crap.
Americans.
The fried fish is just fried fish and fried shrimp and all that.
The cheddar biscuits.
The cheddar biscuits are just MSG.
Whatever they are.
But here's the
They're
thing,
really
like
good.
Long John Silver's or Skipper's, at least they like wear it. They're like, we're a shitty seafood place.
Yeah, that's true.
No problem. They don't pretend.
Red Lobster was the restaurant that my family would always go to for lunch after church.
My favorite place to go to after church when I was a kid was Sizzler. They had
That's trashy.
they had all you can eat pudding and nacho cheese.
Oh, really? Put together?
No, you wouldn't eat it at the same time.
I'm just like imagining those together.
So good. So good.
Well, Red Lobster is a step above Sizzler. But maybe not in a way because
Sizzler's more authentic.
owns it.
Yeah, Sizzler's like
Sizzler knows.
Sizzler doesn't even fake it.
It's not. I don't know. It's not like uppity, but Red Lobster doesn't really do that.
Okay, so let's get on with the show.
Yes.
For starters, this is exciting stuff. We have people that have risen to the occasion. Heroes do not always wear capes. And you guys heard that we recorded the 25th episode where we were kind of like sharing our woes of no one stepping up to buy these chairs for us. Well, I spoke too soon. Too soon. Mm-hmm. Before that podcast was even recorded, Emily sent us $20 to go to the chair fund. Seriously.
That's awesome.
But don't stop there.
No.
Kathleen sent us $3, and she says, for the honesty of the podcast and for the chair fund. Man.
That's awesome. Thank you.
That puts the chair
of
fund
you.
at $23.
We're getting somewhere.
Yeah. So I feel like we need a jar here
Yeah, we do.
because
To show that
I'm going to put the money there.
put the money there. Yep.
And if you tune in on the video, you can see it. And we can see it, and we can
Or
feel
we could shake it. We'll put some change in there. So people will.
and we can feel good about ourselves and feel cared for and validated.
Right.
But most importantly, our asses will feel cared for and validated eventually. You know what else we could do? I just thought about this. Let's say, because chairs can be expensive.
Yeah.
And
they
I don't
can.
want to buy cheap chairs. That's the problem.
So we could be here for 5 years before
Or
we could.
I just bought my mom this fancy seat cushion for her butt
Oh,
for her birthday.
that's
And
true.
it was like $40. So if we want to go like a ghetto route, we could just buy 2 of these like gel.
Well, before we pull the trigger on that, let's just see what people's response is.
So
Because if we have an overwhelming response,
I
by
just
all
don't-
means, let's buy the chairs.
I mean, I don't want to. Our audience is great.
Yeah.
I just want to have a plan B. You know what I'm saying? Because I've trusted too many people in my life.
Yeah. We've had to learn to take care of ourselves.
And I'm sure you guys are all great, but
Yeah.
you guys are taking care of your own asses, and we
That's
have
right.
to take care of our
And
own.
I can respect that.
But seriously, thank you, Emily, and thank you, Kathleen, for
Yes.
stepping up. That is really cool. I'm just looking at the last contribution that I got on Venmo from someone named Martha, and this was actually a huge contribution. It was $75 just for
Wow.
the vlogs. But she wrote, "Congrats on the AT hike. I have enjoyed your YouTube videos. Stop smoking though, please."
Man, I wonder what she would have donated if we weren't smokers.
I should tell her if she sends me more money, I'll not smoke for like 2 episodes. People can sponsor our lungs.
Yeah.
Okay, previous episode, we have a comment from the YouTube video. Would you like to read this?
Yes, I
Tammy?
would. I'm getting my energy here. Got some coffee in me. Crawfords just finished episode 25 and had an idea. You all could totally start an AA for Christians who have expanded their views. If I'm honest, that's why I keep tuning in each week, to hear that I'm not alone or crazy, radical for questioning the church and its violent language as opposed to nonviolent communication towards humans that Jesus actually loves dearly. Almost weekly, you guys say something that my husband and I have stated verbatim, and it's healing. Not because I desire a replacement echo chamber, but because it helps to neutralize the pain and hurt spoken to us from, quote, members of the body. Anyway, that's what your podcasts do for me, so thanks. Jess from Cincy. Wow, she lives around here.
That's cool.
That is really cool.
I don't know what you mean, Jess, by AA for Christians who have expanded their views, because it could be, well, let's see. You could totally start.
It's like a recovery
Yeah.
group.
That's what I feel like we're in.
It's just not it's not blatantly that. As in, maybe.
Well, AA, I guess, is like a recovery group or a support group, but there's a lot in our life that, because I've spent so much time in 12-step groups, which is what AA is, where aspects of our life totally resemble that already. So I'm totally on board with that.
Yeah.
And in terms of, I don't know if you're actually serious or not, but in terms of meeting with actual people, I think right now, well, we meet with people in our life that actually, there's a book group we're in that is serving this function right now. But I'm not surprised. I've heard a number of people say that about our podcasts and our vlogs, and I'm really glad that people have that experience and don't feel alone, because we felt crazy for a long time, and it took a few people and then a few authors and now a few podcasts that we listen to that make us not feel as crazy. So actually, I really enjoy these types of comments because I'm like, that's really cool. I like that. Okay, getting on to our topic for the day. We're in relax mode. We have a bit of a story time that is going to have some morals and some punches and some, I think we're going to bring the value, because that's what we do. We're going to earn our $23. But it will be more chill. So, do you know what we're talking about tonight?
Video games.
Yes. It'd be so cool if we had a video game sound effect. This could work for now. That sounds like kind of like Halo.
Or what's this one? It's kind of.
That has a little bit of a Contra vibe.
No, that's definitely not it.
Oh, there's our phone one. Oh, you found it.
I found it.
All right, W.
W.
You got to remember that.
Okay.
I'm writing that down. Okay, so for those of you who have followed along with our family through this new year on the vlog, one of the big things we did was we did away with all house rules. And I want to talk about that just for a minute to give a little bit of context. House rules were I don't know how to say it, but the backbone of our family beforehand. And one story pops to my mind. There was a very flattering article written about us in this web page called The Trek, which features through hiking articles. And this guy named Arnold, he interviewed our family, and he was showing off our family's ability to complete this through hike, the Appalachian Trail. And he says that we run with military-like precision. And at the time I read that and I was like, oh, that's cool. Yeah, we do. And we take our shit seriously. This stuff doesn't happen on accident. I was organized as hell and we did it. But the more I thought about it, I started to think that there's two sides to that military type precision. There's this side where you're okay, you get shit done. That's great. And you're organized and that's nice. But military also has some negative connotations to it. Order is prioritized over art and over people's feelings sometimes.
Individuality.
Over motivation. It's fear-based oftentimes.
Yeah.
So, and he didn't mean all this when he wrote that, I don't think. I'm just telling you, that phrase, stuck with me, and it kind of haunted me a bit. So, Cammie and I, a lot of because kind of our, we had realized that we had an overemphasis on authority structures in our background. We had been kind of living more freely without them, and we decided it would be better for our family to experience that, especially because we have almost 4 teenagers now. And we're, so we had this rule that was well, children should obey their parents, and that's in the Bible. It's one of the 10 Commandments, and it creates sanity and order, and we just know how to operate.
Makes God happy.
Well, yeah, and it makes us happy. But I think we did believe it made God happy.
We used to believe, yeah.
So we enforced this pretty strict, and our kids got it. And it was okay, you do this or else. Maybe you get fined $5, maybe you get grounded, maybe you get video games taken away, whatever. But come January 1st of this year, 3 months ago, we just did away with all rules in one fell swoop. And we were what's going to happen? We didn't know. And it was kind of scary.
Yeah.
So before that, the rule was Seven had an Xbox, and him and I, when I bought it for him for Christmas, I think it was 2 years ago, we would play it together. That was the rule. It was okay, I'm buying this, but we're going to play it on Saturdays, and we're only going to play it together. So we did that for a year. And then I just got sick of playing it. So But then he could play it every Saturday by himself. And he was what, 14? When, come
Last
January?
year, yeah, come January.
So then, all of a sudden, there's no rules, no caps. And by the way, Seven has no job, no school. People are like, what do you mean no school? I mean, like, no school. Like, we don't homeschool. We don't do public school. We don't do private school. So he can play video games all day long if he wants. And I'm not one of those parents that's like, oh, whatever, like, video games are cool. I'm like, I hate them, like, in terms of addiction level and brain rotting, and I feel like they atrophy your brain. So I get that side. Like, you know, for us to do the Appalachian Trail, like, I'm on the more hippie side of, like, anti-tech. Like, we don't have iPads in the house. We didn't buy our kids phones. So,
yeah.
And that's just like preferential, I guess. Mm-hmm. So we say everything's allowed. And Cammie, you're quiet over there. Why don't you talk about January and video games?
I think what happened is the kids just did what they wanted to do, and what that looked like with Seven in particular. He's our 14-year-old. I don't even really fully know what his schedule was, but I know he stayed. Well, everyone's got. I actually think he kind of did have a schedule, sort of, maybe, where he stayed up late till 2 a.m. or something, playing video games. Then he would sleep till 1 or 2 p.m.
So he'd miss breakfast.
Miss breakfast.
Miss lunch.
Miss lunch. And then we'd see him, he'd come downstairs for the first time around 1 or 2 p.m.
He would put a couple bagels in the toaster.
And then do maybe some editing.
Well, he'd forget about the bagels.
Yeah,
And
that's true.
He'd leave them there for like 4 hours. Do a little bit of editing.
Oh,
then go back
upstairs.
Sorry, I'm interrupting.
Either to bed or to video games. I'm not sure which.
He's on the 3rd floor, which is the attic. So, and it's like cold up there. So we're not going up there to check on him. Plus, there'd be nothing to check on because there's no rules to enforce.
Yeah. So that was my understanding. I don't fully know, like, if that's the correct schedule he kept, but I think it's pretty close.
We're just trying to give an idea.
Yeah, it's like the idea.
And as parents, we're watching this unfold.
And I felt myself kind of mourning him changing, but I don't really think he changed. He just was allowed.
His little heart was unleashed. His dreams had come true.
This, like, we had him leashed up or whatever. I mean, I guess that's kind of a funny way to say it, but and so whatever we were seeing was just a product of us having rules. And then once we took that away, we were seeing more what his heart's desires were, at least, you know, during that time. And it was kind of hard for me to not feel like I was losing him somehow. Like he didn't really want to be around. Like, I had this feeling like, oh, you just don't really want to be around us. Like, we see you 1 hour out of the day.
Plus, when he comes down, then he's watching YouTube videos about video games.
Yeah. Yeah. But I also believe that kids or teenagers or adults don't usually stay in the same spot. Like, I don't know. Like, I didn't think he would be in that same spot forever. So I guess had faith that, okay, well, and I just also wanted to be okay and try to accept him if he did.
And this is Fortnite, which I've never played. I just hear it's highly addictive. There's no end to it, so it's not like Mario Brothers where you beat Bowser and then you're done.
Or you rescue the princess.
Oh yeah, I guess that was the point, huh? Mm-hmm. So, and I started to see things show up on our credit card. So he got an Xbox Live account, which he had to pay for. Then there's like $10 worth of skins or something that he bought, and he had to pay for that.
What skins?
I don't know.
Is that just part of the Fortnite thing?
Yeah.
Oh.
I think it's like costumes for your character or something.
Sounds really weird.
So it's costing money, it's costing time. And then let's talk about February. February, in my opinion, started to reach like disaster level. He's hardly doing his chores. Everyone kind of hates him.
He's bitching about the chores he does have.
Yes.
Forgetting to do them.
He's sleeping in past meetings that he wanted to attend. He's not taking care of his birds. Like, everyththing's just like...
his birds. I could have a whole podcast on his birds.
Yeah, you totally could. I wish we had Here, we'll just pretend these are birds, even though they're not. But I don't want to send the wrong message to our audience, because sometimes if I cricket them...
Yeah, that wasn't for you. They're all like, no.
We'll be good.
I'm trying to be better.
We left messages, honestly, we did. Which actually, you guys could use a little work on your message leaving. I'll just say that for now, but...
Yeah.
So February was kind of like a disaster.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not really knowing how to handle this, because part of what we are removing with rules is not just like 10 Commandment type rules, but it's actually like motivational structures that are consequence or reward based.
Yeah.
So, and it's kind of like, it's kind of hard to explain how those are related. I think it's going to take like a whole book to explain that. Mm-hmm. But it's basically like we're trying to minimize external stimuli in regards to manipulating children into getting things done.
Yeah.
So that we can focus on the internal.
Well, both rewards and consequences are a manipulation to get someone to do what you want them to do.
Which I don't think is wrong.
No.
We just see it as less effective for the
like,
type of
manipulation can be a loaded word, because that's usually
Yeah.
implying that's negative, but I don't think it's always negative. Anyways.
Okay, so February is a disaster.
Things are coming to a head where it was just like,
and then I would say...
This isn't working. This isn't working.
But then again, it kind of is.
It is working.
It's not working for us. Like, we're pissed off.
But yeah. It's like working, it's like maybe kind of working for him.
What does that even mean?
But what does that even mean? Yeah.
So then Monday happens. And first of all, I know he's up till like 2 a.m. playing video games. Monday, we have a meeting with a few guys where we call it our creative AA meeting. And we share our creative goals for the week.
This is just Ben and some guys.
And we meet at 6 a.m. It's my only early meeting of the week. And Seven has said that he wanted to come to that. And he missed the last one because of daylight savings, because he said his clock was off. And he missed this one now. And we heard his alarm from the living room 3 floors up for like 20 minutes.
I don't know how he sleeps through that.
I'll tell you how he sleeps through it. He goes to bed at 2 a.m. because he's playing video games.
Even if I did that, I would not be able to sleep through that.
Yeah. So then, and trash day is Sunday night, Monday morning.
And that's his job right now.
That he agreed to do for 3 or 6 months or something.
Yeah.
And so we're sitting there, and the trash is still sitting by the side of the house. Mm-hmm. And we've had this thing where, like, I'm kind of like, let the trash can come and go, or the trash guy, and make 7 deal with it. Cammy's more along the lines of you like go up to his room, knock on the door, nag him, remind him,
Give
bother
him
him,
5 warnings.
get all emotionally involved, and then,
But on Monday, I told myself I wasn't going to do that because I knew, or I could see, if I did that every week, I would have to maintain that, or I could let him grow up and have to deal with what he should be dealing with.
So he comes down finally around noon, and we say, hey, you got to deal with this trash. And we just try to say it kind of matter-of-factly.
Yeah, without a lot of energy.
And he lucked out because my parents' house, they hadn't picked up their trash, and my parents live in our backyard. So
they live on the other street.
Yeah, so he could just like carry the trash over there, and he lucked out. But I think he kind of got a little like freaked out because I would have just been like, dude, just find a dumpster and figure it out. I don't care.
Yeah.
Don't do anything illegal. So it was a terrible day and a terrible month. So by now, you as the audience should be frustrated for us and be like, this kid is an ass. And these parents are letting this kid walk all over him. And he's throwing his life away, and you're helping him. You're accomplices. That's what we're trying to... That's the stage I'm trying to set here. Okay? But are you ready for it? This is where everything changes. Monday night, Cammie and I were out. Where were we? Any ideas?
Swimming.
Oh, yeah. We were out swimming, and Seven actually didn't come, which
He
now...
wasn't feeling good.
That's what he said.
No, I actually think he wasn't feeling good.
Well, I believe you, but when people stay up till 2 a.m., people don't feel good sometimes. And I get an email, and this email says this. It's from Epic Games Player Support is the subject line. And it says, Epic Games Player Support. Thanks for contacting us about deleting your account. We're sad to see you go. Please be aware that this process deletes all purchases, in-game progress, and items you have. This process cannot be reversed, so please be sure you want to delete your account before proceeding. Read more details here. We also want to make sure you know that you have the option to temporarily disable your account instead of deleting it. Read more details here.
Son of a bitch.
So
they try to get you in the last.
Oh, they're such manipulative bastards.
That's how Facebook is.
Oh man, it's so
you
manipulative.
can't delete your account on Facebook. It's like forever there.
So, come to find out, he deleted his account. So Tuesday, which was yesterday, you and I both talked to him. We were just like, "Hey, what's up?"
I took him out to lunch on Tuesday.
So you want to recount that?
Yeah. First of all, I hadn't done that in I don't know how long. Just taking him out. And that was really cool for me because I think he can get kind of lost in the midst of everyone. And I can kind of forget that. I think a lot goes on for him behind the scenes, behind the brain, that we don't see. And I'm not saying like there's a ton, I mean, there is, but I'm just... Sorry, I'm not trying to bash my son. I think I love him.
All right,
but he's like 14, but yeah, for me to be able to see that, to see like, oh wow, there's like a lot that he's thinking through. Like he could feel and see that his life was becoming unmanageable for him.
Can you just say what he said?
I don't remember exactly what he said, except for he said that he realized he needed to delete his account because like he didn't make it to the meeting and like just a lot of things that he wanted to do, he wasn't doing. and he realized that was getting in the way.
Now that is so fascinating to me. See, so Tuesday night we hang out with guys, smoke cigars.
You do?
I do. And Seven comes, and I said, "Hey, are you up for?" Well, first of all, I said, "Hey, will you vlog about this?" Just because I thought it was so fascinating, and he did. And I still haven't watched it, so I have no idea what he said.
Yeah.
And then I said, "Would you be up for sharing the story with the guys tonight? Because we're always looking for topics that are just like kind of interesting to get conversation started." And I was interested in it both from a parenting perspective, but also just from a life perspective. And he said, "Yeah, I'll talk about it." So my first time really hearing about it was with these 8 guys. And he was saying some of that same language. Like he said, I felt like I was throwing my life away. And like he said, my dad asked me to fly the drone, which I didn't really. He wanted to learn that, and he agreed. And then he wasn't doing that. Like a month had passed, and he hadn't asked me. And now he finally did, like this week. But like, so what I'm so fascinated by, this is the like premise for me, is if we would have had the rule like, okay, no video games, or 1 hour a day or 2 hours a day, all of the energy would have been on the rule. So let's say the same couple months happened and he's playing video games till his eyes bleed and not getting shit done. Then we'd be like, we have a rule. You got to pay $2 or be grounded for 2 weeks, or take out the trash more, or give him chores, or do push-ups, or whatever the consequence or rewards are that you want to set up. Buy you ice cream if you don't play many video games. But all the emphasis on his mind would have been on either the rewards or the consequences.
Yeah.
So he'd be like, okay, crap, now I got to take out trash, or, oh, I got ice cream because I only played for 10 minutes, or whatever the thing is. But because we didn't have any of that, we just gave it some time, and it was painful as hell to watch. But finally, he came to this conclusion himself, where he decided, I don't want to do video games right now. And I don't want to oversell this, because if he's like me, he'll get his account back in another month or two. And, you know, I go back and forth on swearing things off forever. And
Yeah.
I've learned nothing's permanent. And I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I'm totally okay with that. I just think it was cool that on that day, at that time, he concluded that video games were not helpful for what he wanted to accomplish in life.
And something that we talked about at lunch was he all of a sudden was asking the question, what am I interested in? Like, what do I want to do? And I think taking the video games off the table for him allowed him to ask that question, which I thought was really cool. It was mostly sports, and I told him, well, sports take a lot of time and a lot of running around, and I don't know if we can do that, but yeah, anyways.
So, I don't know. That's, to me, the two topics I guess I want to just make sure we've covered, and we don't have a whole lot more to say about this. Well, actually, we have a ton to say, but not tonight. Is from a parenting perspective, there's this question of, do we let our children work it out themselves and reach disappointment in the shiny object?
And at what age?
And
too?
what age, yes.
Because I think the lower you get in age, the more people you would have saying, that's not a good idea. But it's very obvious when you have a 30-year-old who's still living with his parents in the basement playing video games, that you're like, yeah, that guy should know better. Or that guy should come to those conclusions on his own, and no one should bail him out. Or should have these, like, you know.
Yeah, I think bailing someone out is tragic. But I don't know.
Or to have, I don't know, rewards or consequence. I don't know. Maybe at that age that's different. But
so, yeah, what what do you guys think about that out there in podcast land? Do you think, because I guess it's mixed, you know? When I was talking about this with the guys yesterday, Tim, my friend Tim, said this really fascinating thing about their parenting style. He said, we've learned to trust in the culture that we've created. So if you don't trust in your culture and you're like, oh, video games are so powerful, which I think they are, or Facebook or Instagram or Snapchat or whatever the latest tech is, that it's going to take my kid away from me, then either your culture is not great or powerful, or you're not trusting in it. But if it is good enough, like he was just kind of saying, it's okay. You let the kids go, but they'll come back to it. They'll come back like the rest of their lives and the relationships and everything else, even though they might get lured away for a week or a month or a year even.
Like, do you mean he trusts in the like values that him and his wife like instilled that they'll eventually come back to that,
or are just like living out
themselves
and displaying?
Yeah. Okay.
And there's this quote we have on our chalkboard right now, and it's a Richard Rohr quote, and it says, the best criticism of the bad is the practice of the better. So this is something that, you know, because I'm not confident in this, but I'm a little bit confident. If kids have nothing better than video games going on, they're going to play video games all day and every day.
Or at least that they're interpreting for themselves.
But that's all they can base it off of.
Right.
But then the question is, why shouldn't they? If their second best option is doing drugs, causing trouble, beating kids up, or sitting on a couch watching TV, video games might be a better alternative for them.
Yeah.
Now, so if our kids are always wanting to play video games for like extended massive periods of time, I think one of the questions we as parents ought to ask ourselves is, are we providing more appealing and better alternatives? Because maybe we're not. And maybe we could or should be providing activities or environments or relationships that are more appealing than video games. And here's the thing. I actually think kids are smart enough to know. I think a lot of times we say they're kind of dumb and stupid and that they're just like susceptible to video games. But kids they're all social. Video games are social platforms. And they're hanging out with people where they feel a sense of accomplishment, where they feel a sense of connection and a sense of progression. And I think if we provide that, you know, I was really shocked when we went to the Bahamas on this like $10,000 Atlantis vacation. It was like this all-you-can-eat bullshit resort. And I say bullshit just because I hate casinos, and there was a casino there, but it was fun. And we came back and we had this talk that we were supposed to do at REI about our Wonderland Trail hike, which is this 95-mile hike. And right before we went in, I asked the kids, kind of as a joke, hey, what would you rather do? Go to Atlantis in the Bahamas or hike the Wonderland Trail? And all of them at the time, including Memory, this is probably, 5 years ago, so she was 7, said that they would rather do the Wonderland than this like video game Disneyland theme park palace. And I was blown away that all the kids were, I don't want to say smart enough because I don't think it's about intelligence, but they weren't just interested in the shiny object.
Well, or they interpreted this shiny object as something different.
So the final thing, so there's the parenting side, but really, I think this stems from kind of a worldview of how we treat ourselves. And this is where I've had a shift. And this is one of the other things that came up in the conversation yesterday with the guys, is I saw video games as stupid and subpar, just like I would describe any shiny object. Okay, there's this thing, and it's a waste of time. And this is how I describe a lot of movies or other like shiny object type things. And whatever change we've been through, I think spiritually and emotionally, makes it so that I don't have these black and white terms anymore in terms of avoiding shiny objects. And now I believe that the best way to confront shiny objects oftentimes is by going for it wholeheartedly until you no longer see it as shiny. Mm-hmm. And this is what's happened. Otherwise, the thing takes on this almost like mythical power. So, like, for example, with Seven, if we said, no video games. Mm-hmm. I mean, I wasn't allowed to play video games as a kid, so I did two things. One is I snuck it all the time. And two is I just craved it. It's all I thought about because I thought they would answer all my problems.
Well, and I've come to believe that craving for the video games or whatever you want to call it, the desire for those things is not bad. Like, it's just not. But
and this is a phrase that Richard Rohr uses about God that was also helpful for me. He said God, I think it was Richard Rohr. He said God is the great allower. Like, you know, it's amazing, like, if you follow a biblical narrative, like, what he allows to happen. Almost to a point where it's, like, really uncomfortable. Like, if you are thinking, oh, he lets this shit go down, like, really? But there's something that he must believe, God, at least the biblical definition of God, about what's better, even if something's really dangerous, prohibiting it is not the best long-term solution. Like, sometimes it's better to let people work it out. And in my own life, it's made it so that I'm less down on shiny objects. I'm less likely, because sometimes I feel guilty for playing video games or watching certain shows on Saturday. You know, sometimes I like to watch WWF. And just like the old 90s stuff from my childhood. And I'm like, oh, this is so dumb. But I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. I like it. I enjoy it. It's not wrong, whatever that means. And if I watch it, I get over it after 20 minutes or an hour or 5 hours or 10 hours or 10 days, whatever it is. And then I'm like, okay, yeah, that was cool. I want to move on. And as parents, sometimes I think one of the best things we can do is to remove the shame from these types of activities with ourselves first and then with our kids. And instead of discouraging them from one particular shiny object or prohibiting it, to start discussions around it. So, you know, with Seven, I would like to discuss this and be like, hey, how was it like playing video games? Okay. What was the cost for that? When did you know it wasn't worth it? What's your plan for the future? You know, and just to, now that he has that vantage point, to look back. I look like I'm losing you. Are you falling asleep?
I'm falling asleep, but...
Okay, it's time to move on then.
Sure.
I mean, we need you on this, babe. This is, I mean, I don't know. I still haven't fully figured out if you're a co-host or a guest, but, like, you can't be sleeping here. I'm giving it to you.
Uh-huh.
I just saw this, like, blank look in your eyes.
Blank.
Okay. Let's go to the phones. There
we go.
There we go. Okay, this is our first call. And you haven't heard these, so I gotta turn these up for you.
Hey guys, this is Elizabeth in Oregon, and I was just calling to say, one, I'm stepping up to your challenge because there have been questions that I'm like, oh, they'll eventually get to, and I just thought I'd go ahead and ask them. So anyways, the first thing I was curious about was when, you know, you talk about the Christian culture and being wounded or whatever, just like, do you consider, like, I know this is a Christian phrase, but like Jesus to be Lord of your life, or the Bible to be like the absolute truth, like Word of God, and just kind of where you stand, not so much with the culture, but more so just with those two questions. And I ask too because then I hear some phrases you say, like, you know, follow your fantasies, sexual fantasies, or like those are all good things. And I just know in my life, not everything this is another Christian word, flesh tells me to do is necessarily good for me. So like, when do you use restraint and when do you, just follow what you want or those desires, and what are the differences? So This question's kind of all over the place, but choose to answer it as you will. Thanks. Bye.
Well, those are some doozies.
Holy fuck.
We're going to start that with holy fuck.
All right. Elizabeth from Oregon bringing it.
I know.
With the question. She's like, if you had one question, one opportunity. Am I mixing two movies?
I don't know.
I feel like I'm mixing an Eminem song with a Johnny Cash movie. Okay. She asks, in this order, I had to write these down because I was getting overwhelmed. Would we say that God or Jesus is Lord of our life? And then, do you believe the Bible is the absolute true word of God? Wow. Okay. So, I don't know if we're going to be able to answer this for you, Elizabeth, and here's why. This is my answer. Cammie is looking at me. She's awake now. And she might have a different answer. But I used to say these phrases all the time. Okay, for 30 years I was in an environment where these were the common phrases. And this is what it meant to be a Christian, right? It was to accept Jesus Christ as your personal Lord and Savior and declare him as Lord of your life. And I've done that maybe, let's just say 20 times or 50 times. And then I also believed in the absolute true word of God.
The Bible.
The Bible, yes. That's what we called the absolute true word of God. And I don't know if I've used that specific phrase, but I'm familiar with kind of all those terms. And we believe something radically different now than what we believed in those 30 years when we were saying those same phrases. But I also wouldn't say that I disagree with those phrases completely. But I do disagree with how they're often used. Because, and a lot of times what I've learned from some of these phrases is they're loaded terms, and it's not just what's said, it's actually kind of what's not said. Mm-hmm. So to me, it's terminology to determine the insiders versus the outsiders, which to me, I don't really believe in that anymore. That there's insiders and then there's outsiders. There's people that declare Jesus as Lord, and then there's people that don't. To me, that doesn't make a whole lot of difference anymore. And that used to be the thing. It used to be all about your personal decision, and you got to determine basically God's eternal state for you. And there was a ton of emphasis placed on in the tradition we grew up. And like, are you going to make the decision to avoid hell and go to heaven and accept Jesus Christ? And I think now I still believe in the God that is represented in the Bible, but I don't necessarily believe in the interpretations. So while I think lordship, that's what we used to call it, is a important factor, I actually think it's one of like 10 things that are equally important to believe about God. And when I used to say Jesus is Lord, it was like the only thing that mattered. Like, Jesus is King, Jesus is Lord, God is, I don't know.
Yeah. And I don't know if I even believe in that jargon anymore. Just because I don't know if Jesus cares.
Oh, perfect.
Like, for me, it more like Jesus is Lord to me meant that I've given him my whole life. And,
yeah.
And he's the one that's directing my destiny, and
yeah,
he's the king, and he wants me to call him king and Lord. And I just don't think he gives a fuck.
And the people that
I just don't believe that
people
anymore.
That say that they give him their whole life, if Jesus' primary directive was to love God and love people, those people should be the most loving people on the planet. And in our experience, they're not. And here's another thing that kind of pisses me off, just on a side note. I think some people say, oh, you're saying this because you're hurt. No, we're not. We were hurt, but our pain caused us to see the belief system that we held more for what it actually was, in the way we held it and in the people around us, how they held it. So this isn't just a reaction, but no one on this planet will tell you that Christians are the most loving people. So that makes me think that either
God's an asshole if they're serving the one true God.
If Jesus is the Lord of all of their lives.
Or the people are assholes.
Well, or there's a misunderstanding of what that phrase means.
Which creates, Anyways, yeah.
Okay. Then something about sexual fantasies and when do you use restraint?
Did we do the true word of God? Or I guess we touched on that.
I kind of just lumped that in.
So she was saying that sometimes what she wants to do she doesn't feel like it's the healthiest thing for her. So when is it good to use restraint?
And I think this touches on exactly what we talked about the video games today.
Yeah.
So I think it's the perfect question in a way.
I think you're free to use restraint if you want to use restraint. I think people are also free not to use restraint. And I think you're going to learn something from both. But I think you might actually learn more if you don't use restraint.
For Christians sometimes.
Yeah. And I'm not saying go like hurt someone, kind of lose restraint. Although I do think that would teach you something as well, possibly.
Meaning if you're the type that's not doing something because you just think it's wrong or that you just feel guilty, a lot of that, we think that shame or guilt is, I don't want to say fictional, but it's self-induced. God doesn't create it. At least if you're following the God of the Bible, he doesn't claim to give you any guilt or shame.
Well, and I think what happens, I know what has happened to me, is when I feel shame about something and I'm like, oh, I want to do that, but I'm not going to do that because, and then I feel shame around even wanting to do that or even thinking about it. And then you don't do it, it kind of, it actually keeps you stuck in this shame cycle, I think.
And you're not able to move past it. So the shiny object will always be the shiny object.
Right.
Now, I think I'm not against the people using restraint at times. I mean, I use restraint all the time when I think that it's not good to eat. For example, tonight, the 5th cheesy biscuit in a row. I was like, I'm going to feel like crap. So I didn't. But if I would have, I don't think I'd be like, you idiot. Like, that was the dumbest thing ever. You shouldn't have done that. You know that was wrong.
But you might have done that in the past.
Oh, absolutely.
Or you did. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for the question,
those
Elizabeth.
are good questions.
Keep on. Feel free to send us more questions. Like, they could be less intense. Or, heck, bring it.
Or more.
Or more. All right. Next question.
Hi, Cami and Ben. I have a question for your question period. Out of genuine curiosity, I'm just wondering how you know God exists. So if you hadn't had the upbringing you've had with constant messaging about him and his will and preferences, expectations and existence, etc., what else in your life would have brought you to the same conclusions? Excellent. Thank you.
Another very deep question. That could possibly be the deepest question. Except for why we exist, which is kind of all.
Glad I drank that cup of coffee. Fuck. How do you know God exists?
How do you know?
Real quick, if you could just answer that. That's a great question, though.
Yeah. I think I'm kind of taking a step back with this question, and because, like she said, we grew up with all of these ideas about who God is, and even that God was solely masculine. And now I've taken quite a few steps back and feel like I have the freedom to explore who do I think God is, and knowing who I am and how I tick and what I see in the world, having that all be part of who I believe God is. Now, that's not really what she's asking.
That's not what she's asking.
I feel like that's also... So, does God exist?
Are you just asking the question again?
Yeah. I think I've really wrestled with this at times of having thoughts of, well, it's not right. It's not blatant, all the time. A lot of times in my different states of mind, I'll doubt if God really exists. But the only thing it's kind of hard to wrap your mind around. For me, it's feelings. It's the experiences I've had of feeling like I'm connected to something larger than myself. I like to call God being, because to me that's a little bit less of a loaded term. But I also look around the world and I'm just like, this is crazy. Like all the crazy life forms that I'll never see that just exist. So those are my two thoughts.
So you don't think you're saying that has some sort of like conscious design behind it? Is that what you're saying?
That's my take on it. Yeah. And it's just all the different life forms are just
for me
too complex.
I don't have confidence that God exists. Like 100%. I have enough confidence that I operate as if he does exist. And I say he, that kind of might piss Cammy off because she's on this he, she, being thing. But I'm just using a standard biblical term.
Oh, you're throwing the biblical word at me.
Well, I'm assuming that's where these people are coming from. I'm not tossing it at you.
Okay.
So I live as if God exists. I think in my younger years, more based out of like fear. Like I was like, oh crap, I have to believe in God, like to go to heaven, or
like everything would fall apart if you didn't.
my life would, yeah.
Yeah.
Now I don't have that pressure feeling anymore. But I don't think I'd make a very good atheist. And I've thought about why a lot, like why I believe in God. And not like, growing up in religious background, there's like what we're told to say, and what we're told we believe. Mm-hmm. And then there's what I actually believe. Mm-hmm. So what I actually believe, like forget about all the way I was raised in Bible verses, like just in my core, I'm a romantic. A lot of people don't know this about me, but I'm in love with the idea of being in love. I loved Titanic when I was in high school, and I didn't want to tell anyone that, but I did. And for me, when I look out in the world, I see a love story. I see it in our marriage. I see it with our kids. I see it with humanity on a cosmic scale. And I do think love exists. I think love is outside of science or outside of matter. And the only thing that makes sense to me that's like worth living for is that we are living in a cosmic love story. And I like that. It gives me hope. It makes sense to me. I can feel it. I like it. Am I 100% confident it's true? No. Do I need to be 100% confident? No. 60% is good enough for me.
But you bring up a good point, because I feel like people are very binary about how they view God. You either believe God exists or you don't. But there's actually kind of a spectrum that people could be on. Like you said, like maybe you're 60%. But I've never really heard people talk about that. Like there's the purist of like, I am an atheist. And then there's the purist of like, I believe in God. And there's no room for there to be in between.
For me, I think, I'll just say what I was thinking. Don't misquote me on this. I think you have to be an idiot to be an atheist 100%. Or
the opposite.
Or the other way 100%. I mean, and I don't mean idiot, but you have to like,
or in denial about something.
Yeah,
or you're like,
we're talking about something outside of our, by definition, we're talking about something outside of our pay grade. So to be certain about it, I just think that's a bad bet.
Mm-hmm. Either way.
So for me, my lifestyle doesn't come from my confidence in that area. It comes from, honestly, like,
which, by the way, if there's any atheists listening to this, we're not calling you idiots. At least I'm not.
I kind of did, but I don't mean it in a bad way. I think that belief system, I'd like to understand it more. I mean, maybe there's a way that someone could say, yes, I have with 100% certainty arrived at the conclusion that a God cannot exist.
Well, even atheists, I wonder if they feel that pressure that they have to say that to be a true atheist. Like, I have to say.
Yeah, maybe.
Just like a religious person feels the pressure that they have to say, oh, 100% God exists.
If that's their definition of belief, I don't want it. Because for me, like, some of my core values are humility and honesty. And I don't think you can be 100% confident of something outside of you and still remain humble.
Yeah.
Now, like I said, I don't think that means you can't live into it, you know. I choose to live as if God exists and we're in a cosmic romance because...
And you can choose to live in a way that God doesn't exist. Like,
Sure.
Those are both.
Yeah, why not?
Fine.
Okay. Wow. Whoa. Okay.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay. Jeez, those are...
Wait, I'm gonna for
crazy.
dramatic effect, just because I want people to get the message, we'll go to our third phone call.
Missed opportunity, guys.
That could have been your question here.
Yeah.
Your question about sex. We had no sex questions this week.
Ben's disappointed.
But
But guess what? Because we're so nice, we will give you guys another opportunity next week.
Yes. To call and leave a message, you call 206-651-5744. That is in the show notes. Get your pens because I want to give it to you one more time. Or your little devices. Or your Alexas or whatever. 206-651-5744. And go ahead and leave us a message. We love any type of comment or question that will blow all of our minds.
Mm-hmm.
And send us lots of money for chairs and...
So our butts can be happy
buy our merch
while we're talking
that we don't
to
have.
you.
Actually, we might have merch at some point. We're talking about it now.
The kids are working on it, supposedly.
Cool, guys. I'm really thankful that you guys are taking the time to listen to this. I do consider it a privilege to be able to record this and have people on the other end
Yeah.
listen to it. It's an honor to know that you guys take the time to listen to our side of the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm anxious to hear you guys' thoughts on the whole video game thing and the shiny object and the motivation and how you deal with that with your children and yourselves. And does this bring up any thoughts for you guys?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, we're wired on coffee, so we're going to go watch, what's that called? Abducted in Plain Sight.
Oh, it's so depressing, but yeah, okay.
And maybe the new Logan Paul documentary, which will
Oh,
be,
that's depressing too.
I guarantee, as depressing. Oh, that's terrible. All right. Well, we'll see you guys next week.
Thank you for listening to Fight for Together. We'll see you next time.